Hi there, my name's Harry, and I'm your host for the Phasio Connects podcast. In this interview, we speak with Shankar and Praveen, who are both the co-founders of Amuse, based in Chennai in India. Amuse is a vertically integrated manufacturing facility. They provide 3D printing, CNC, injection molding, and a whole host of different technologies. What I think is most interesting about Shankar and Praveen and their business is the story from which they started their business. They started from a very humble beginnings, and they grew the business out incrementally, starting with 3D printing and eventually into the facility which they now have, which offers a huge variety of manufacturing technologies. So I hope that you find this to be an informative interview, and I look forward to hearing your responses afterwards. So I know Shankar, you went to university in Germany. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what made you then move into manufacturing afterwards.
I have a background of printing in the side, 2D printing, like offset printing, digital printing. So since my age of 16, I used to work with the printers. Okay. So once I am back to Germany, there is a new technology called 3D printing that popped up like recently into my university. So I was studying power engineering. So yeah, I was looking for jobs there. So I went to a maker space, kind of like experimented what is 3D printing is, and applied for this job. The first like joining was during my form next. Okay. So there is a company called Kumovis. It is recently acquired by a company called 3D System. They gave an opportunity for me where I was a CFD designer, where I designed the internal flows, how the air should be flowing, and because it's a high performance polymer printing machine. And then I was doing all these projects and fascinated with a new technology, how 3D printing is happening in Formnext. So I immediately phoned Mr. Praveen, and yeah, I was explaining this stuff. 3D printing, this is like a 3D printing massive world, and the world is changing immediately. Digital manufacturing is real. So after a year, I find that there is a huge opportunity for us to bridge the gap between service bureau and also the industry who are really looking into 3D printing. So we wanted to not to just position ourselves to be as a service bureau. The real potential of 3D printing is not realized yet. So there is a huge gap in at least in Indian market that is happening. So we realized, okay,
Mm,
I after a year I phoned Praveen. Why don't we be a consultant for these people? We do not have to invest in missionary. We just be a consultant and give them a solution. So the first project we worked with is the Tata Motors project. It was a huge project, and we leveraged 3D printing for that. We printed some of the parts, and Praveen was designing. I was printing. We basically bought some smaller machines like Form Labs, and also in parallel we were doing 3D printing services just to run the business. So the overall year, we were making very little money. In a less than a 6 month, we were making only $1,000. So I had to come back to India, and we consulted the same thing. And the product we developed got a huge hit, and it got worked in the manufacturing sector because we 3D printed and then proved. That was the time the COVID had hit. There were no opportunities that is coming from China. So they
mm.
gave the opportunity to three people company like we were running. So they said, okay, if you were able to prove this, we would be able to give the massive order. So we were like taking up the risk and then did a lot of 3D printing and proved this part, successfully completed the project. We make money. And after that, slowly we did the same approach to other companies, how the design solution can be used, leverage to improve the shorter lead time and also cut the cost. From $1,000 a company making for 6 months, we made like $2,000 per day.
I'd also love to hear a little bit about your story as well, Praveen.
In B Mechanical. So that's where we met. We both went to the same university for UG. So after that, I went to work for a company. I worked as a new product development engineer. So I was into design. So I still remember once he went to PG for Germany for post graduation. So he called me once, and as he said, he was explaining about this new fascinating technology like 3D printing. I still remember that call, and he said like we'll have to do something with this, like at least explore this. We'll have to gain some knowledge on it. So we still didn't have any idea of starting up a company with this. We were like techno lovers, and we were just exploring this technology. Like so, we were able to compare our markets. Like in Europe, they were advanced in terms of leveraging 3D printing already manufacturing. the Indian market, there was still a huge gap, like in terms of 3D realizing the full potential of 3D printing. We found out that our strength was engineering. Our strength was engineering. So we thought we'll do something with our strength so that we can now leverage 3D printing more easily. So that's how he said like the design projects came into place. So since our core strength was engineering, we were able to provide solutions based on engineering problems.
Do you think that the fact that you started your business during the pandemic meant that you had an advantage in bringing additive to the market as opposed to if you'd started before the pandemic?
Since lead times were very high risk in terms of pandemic, in terms of pandemic, lead time was very high for any product development.
Even for material purchase and the supply chain were drastically affected. We were not able to get the materials that is from abroad, and yeah, importing materials were also tough at that time.
Yeah, definitely. Pandemic also
It
made
accelerated the process.
Yeah, people were also made aware of 3D printing more during pandemic with all those medical kits being 3D printed using formless machine. There were many case studies where 3D printing technology was used to produce those swabs, something like that. There were many articles around 3D printing helping the day or saving the day.
I would definitely say 3D printing leverages a shorter lead time. So you should not see it as a product manufactured with a shorter lead time like 3 days, 4 days. It is not like that. So you have a product life cycle of 6 months. So in the pandemic time, for any customer who wanted to showcase or distribute the marketing material, or any customer who wanted to show this as a to the investor, they find it as a easier, faster way to develop the product. Once after the development, they can go with a smaller batch production, industrial production. So now that everything is happening faster with 3D printing, and the product is exactly that is manufactured using traditional manufacturing. So before even going into the marketplace, they have a product that they can give it to the customer as a functional part, and then like once after this process is done, the tooling development is done, within 4 or 5 months they are already having a customer base in hand. But previously it is not possible, because like you cannot do parallel activity. Once the mold is complete, only after then you will be able to get the product. I'm not talking about the product cost of development, but the development time itself will give you cost benefits.
Okay, and so part of it is the speed of product development. Would you say that there's also an element of simplifying the supply chain?
Yeah, that is a very good question. If you are importing it from some other country, it has to have labor benefits, meaning where you can like leverage the labor for design at lower cost, and the printing is almost like equal across the world. Okay, so if you're manufacturing the same part in India, it doesn't matter. The margin of making the product would be like almost close to a manufacturing cost in India or China. Everywhere it's going to be same, because the 3D printing is like that. But where you can benefit, how this can be benefited, is the design phase coupled with 3D printing. So the manufacturing cost reduction with other technology is completely replaced by 3D printing, because the manufacturing cost is almost same in everywhere. Okay, so whether you are manufacturing in the States or in the Australia or in Germany, it's going to be same. So the labor cost that does plays a crucial role here.
3D printing cost, it doesn't, at least now, it doesn't vary much. Maybe here and there but we don't have any major advantages with respect to 3D printing cost or production cost. So what we are trying to say here is like additional services where we add value with respect to design or with respect to total product development with tooling. So that plays a major role.
So that's the reason that you've then focused on bringing a lot of processes inside. So you've got I think you've now got FFF, MJF, injection molding, and CNC capabilities, which is quite a lot. So what motivated you to go after all of these processes as opposed to specializing?
We always project ourselves or place ourselves as custom manufacturers for plastic components, like custom manufactured for polymer components. So initially we have a design phase, and then we have a prototyping phase, and then it goes to serial production. And we were able to find out a lot of difficulties with respect to the clients I'm speaking. They were facing a lot of difficulties in going through these phases with different vendors. Okay, in design phase, there used to be someone who will not be aware of the 3D printing advantages, or even the DFM for injection molding or something like that. So when we were able to bring this under a single roof, we were able to reduce the lot time a lot compared to the other vendors or other people. What we did was we were there from the initial stage. Even if we didn't design those components, when people approach us for manufacturing, we used to offer some design for manufacturing advices to them, so that they get benefited as well.
So you started in consulting, and what made you go into 3D printing from consulting? And then once you went into 3D printing, what then made you go into all of these other technologies?
So it's a simple answer. So we were having a product in hand and then design in hand, and we did not wanted that to go off from us. So we told them that we wanted to develop as a OEM component. So we do not have any facility though. So we kind of like approached one company and then invest in that company to give us some share of capabilities, and then we started producing the parts and giving the parts to the customer. That was the idea. So we always thought like the end product has to be injection molded. So what we can do that this process can be leveraged faster. So this was the activity that was happening inside our factory, and slowly we started a integrated manufacturing facility. So for that it took a lot of approval process, and slowly we are here.
Yeah, we always had a vision to set an integrated manufacturing facility. So we understood this initially itself. Like, if we were able to get all this process under one roof, it would be beneficial for both the client as well as the manufacturer. From the manufacturing perspective as well, we benefit a lot when we are involved from the start, from the prototyping stage. So we always had a vision set in creating an integrated manufacturing facility.
What's the journey like for that customer in working with Amuse?
So we usually, start with the question. So whether this product will be manufactured in lot with a injection molding. So by that time we can sense the customer wanted to go with the production in the end. Okay. So we kind of like figure out if this product can be manufactured with injection molding, because if you have a lot of undercuts and lot of intricacies, it cannot be certainly manufactured through injection molding. So we start with the end in the mind, and then we consult them. Okay, change the design or change the areas where you can reduce the tooling investment, something like this. Or a customer can also say the volumes.
So you can give them the information they need, not just to get the part designed, but also to get it manufactured at scale.
Exactly. So at that time, like, we do not push more into design side, because 3D printing has a design freedom. So we start manufacturing the product in the beginning, and then give the customer a feel that they get into the market first. And once after the market, when they feel okay, they are confident about their things, and the customer itself will come to us and then say, okay, yeah, here is the product, and I'm quite sure that this is going to be a higher volume. Why don't we think about tooling investment? And I have a sense. So a lot of time the customers have come back to us very fast, like maybe a month or two. And once they feel this is going to be the volume, we start manufacturing the tool for low volume production, like the faster production. So it's not the tooling with complex production volume tooling. So the low volume production tooling. So the cost of manufacturing is also quite low. So we manufacture this product until, like, for example, this component until like 6,000 or 7,000. You do not need any tooling investment. So 6,000 you can manufacture without any tooling.
So the reason that you want to eliminate the tooling from this process is that the tooling has a high upfront cost, right? And if you want to ensure they get to market early and they minimize their business risk, right?
Yeah, that's true. So in the beginning they sense, okay, 6,000 number, probably they feel that the total value stream or the total life cycle of a product is only 6,000. Or they might go for a value addition or VAVE, which is nothing but value added value engineering, or there could be a ECN change or engineering change notice can happen, or probably the whole idea of this business can also vanish. Okay, so this 6,000 numbers is differs for different products. For example, some different products might have only 300 numbers. Some different product might have only one number. Okay, bigger products, like I said. Okay, so this is something that customer should understand in the beginning. So there was one case study we were really interested in working. So there is a OEM, like they were using a metal machined part and also plastic machined part. This is a clamp. Okay, so these are the clamps. This was previously machined using CNC machining. So I was finding this as a good opportunity whether we can go with the consulting. So we went with the customer and then like studied. This was manufactured at higher cost. So we were suggesting a plastic solution where they do not need any much of a strength that is needed. Like it was actually over engineered. So we told the customer that this can be manufactured using 3D printing, followed by a traditional manufacturing called injection. So we went to the customer. We kind of like reduced the weight of the part, something like this. So the cost in the end, like after moving to injection molding, it went to almost like 1/10. I would say below 1/10.
Wow.
So the lead time here got benefited, and then once after their like certainty, they then went to the injection molding. This was a use case that we did for the OEM.
The 3D printing broke that barrier. Like, even though they were aware, like they can make these changes, but with injection molding, there is always the initial investment upfront, right? So they weren't trying to change anything with respect to the design, since it was a very insignificant part for them. Like they weren't concerned about that. But 3D printing broke that barrier. Because of 3D printing, they were able to test it even before investing in tooling. They were able to test it on ground, and once they saw the results, they were happy. They were okay to invest in tooling so that they can get their manufacturing cost down and also the lead time down.
You let them, try before you buy, in a way, which gives people the confidence to then invest into the tooling later. And do you think this will change the way that new products are built in the future? Do you think that this will become the standard for how new products are designed?
Yeah, I would say this has become a process for everybody. Okay, we do not have to consult it anymore. So it is a good sign that people are understanding. One of a kind of a fixture I have right now in my hand. It's a fixture. This is manufactured through FDM, but we later switched it to MJF. So this is a fixture that we manufactured, okay, with FDM. So this got into a small batch production because this was in a line. So they kind of like wanted this to be pad printed. So this is quite a complex part to be milled. It's, of course, it takes a lot of time, like 5 hours, 6 hours. In a shorter span, we can manufacture within a day, around about 30-40 pieces. So which is like a good lead time. And cost of manufacturing is also quite low because we remove weight. And then just a metal piece we manufactured with CNC machine. So this way we had a huge impact by coupling traditional and injection, traditional and modern manufacturing.
So I've noticed a theme in the topics we've spoken about, which is that you've actually taken them from being metal to being manufactured in plastics. Yeah. That must represent a huge saving, just in the material cost. So, what advice would you give to a company that's may have been manufacturing all of their parts in metal before, and they're looking to decrease costs, right? Like, where do you think the room is for people to introduce plastic?
I would definitely recommend if there is any lower precision that is required, where tolerance is not that high.
There are many insignificant parts when you we found this, like when we went to their plant. We found this clamping solutions there, and it was all metal. Like we asked them why it is done using metal, and they said like it's easier to process, easier to manufacture, and it's been done like that for many years.
40 years back, their drawings were not changed at all.
Their drawings were like 30-40 years back, so they didn't change it because I didn't add any value to them personally. Like it was an insignificant part to them when they thought like that. It was an insignificant part, so they weren't keen on making any changes to this part. So that's when we identified like we can change this to plastic because it didn't involve any higher load or something. It was just a clamp. It was just holding something in place, which didn't involve any higher force or load in that.
So you have to think about a way how a CTQ or the critical to quality factors can be achieved with CNC machining, and then like take out the insignificant part and put it where 3D printing can be leveraged. Of course, you cannot put this injection molding in place if it is a lower volume.
Okay,
So
that makes sense.
we would recommend it like this.
Hmm.
So all you have to do is go around and then find a way. If there are any parts that can be replaced, they can certainly think about it.
Okay. So then the next thing I wanted to ask is around certification. Have you worked on projects where a part needs to be certified before it's used in the end use case? And how can your approach benefit companies who need that certification?
Sure. So there is a certain process that involves from ISO certification and IATF certification. Okay, the OEM or the original equipment manufacturer, they will ask you for the PPAP or production process approval, like parts. So PPAP is something that everyone has to do. So we would support them in giving them the document, analyzing all these parameters like quality planning before even going. Quality planning includes APQP, advanced quality planning for this, and how this product will be manufactured. What are all the sequence of steps, and what are all the control plan, how to control the quality, and how this product will be delivered in a package, or how this product will be like tracked, and what are all the raw materials we will be using, and the step process, how this assembly is done. There are like certain levels like level 1 to 18, I guess. So we would be able to give them a documentation up to level 5, level 3. Like
since we are a manufacturing partners, like ours will be more like we will be certified for a process rather than the product. So we will be certified for a process, like we'll be certified by a body like IATF, which is renowned all around the globe. So we will be certified for a process, which in turn will aid the OEMs to trust us in manufacturing their products for us. Manufacturing their products.
And we will also support the companies who are into certifying the products. For example, we support them with 3D printing, and we ask them to go with a testing. For example, there are cases like where automotive products went on with ICAD. There is a validation called ICAD that's happening in India. So they took this product with ICAD with a material that is 3D printed because they do not have to invest in tooling. And once after their ICAD validation is done or the process is validated, they can think about injection or other traditional manufacturing. So for this process to happen, we support them. What are all the materials that is needed? For example, the raw material test certification or the certificate of conformance.
Are most of your customers local to you, or do you work mostly with international customers?
It's actually like few percentage. For example, 20% of the customer coming from abroad. Okay, so we are kind of like thinking about exporting to 40% and 60% of India. So that's the immediate milestone we have. But since I said 3D printing should be a decentralized process, it should not be outsourced from different countries.
Okay. And then if I were a startup founder and I had made a commitment that I was going to be delivering a new I don't know, electric scooter or a new drone to the market, what advice would you give to me in how I should approach the design and the manufacturing of my new device, of my new innovation?
As a new product development, like I would advise them to work closely with the manufacturing partners because we'll be able to add more value in terms of the manufacturing feasibility. So when it comes to drone manufacturing, as you pointed out, most of the drone companies, they are using 3D printing for their whole production, like for their batch production. They aren't investing in tooling. Like they are using 3D printing for the maximum because they're able to lightweight their designs using 3D printing, which is not
Especially
which is not possible after a certain point of time in injection molding. Like you will have some limitation with respect to traditional manufacturing. So you will know that only when you are closely working with a manufacturing partner, even at your design stage. At least if you can come up with the initial concept or something like that, but when you're going for a batch production or when you're going for production, you'll have to definitely get some advice or something from a manufacturing perspective as well.
The biggest benefit that drone companies were having is the wall thickness. So you can definitely think about traditional manufacturing like injection molding if it is not a high altitude flying drones. Okay, for them the cost of manufacturing drones should be like as minimal as possible. But for the drones which are into defense or which are into high flying altitude, this is definitely taken into consideration. So for them 3D printing could be a bigger benefit. So MJF technology by innate develop parts faster. And you basically get the parts after like 10 hours of printing and then tooling, you get the parts immediately, and the printing process itself is faster. So people prefer this technology, especially while working with drone companies. And for EV is also the same case. EV people were able to validate at least few vehicles, like 5-6 vehicles that are printed with MJF, and it follows the same pattern as other new product development. Their trims are manufactured. So even now, like we are working with a lot of EV companies in manufacturing the trims, and they are validating the parts and then giving it to the customer in hand and then testing it down. Once after they feel comfortable, they are like coming to us for the manufacturing of tool and then followed by injection molding. This is how it is working.
If I was part of a large company and I was trying to, I have a component, it's selling really well, but I really am trying to reduce costs. How would you recommend that I approach doing so?
Yeah,
Or
it
increase the
usually
customer
depends on the application. Like we will sit down with them, try to understand their CTQs, like where it is used, what is the exact functionality of the part. So once we understand that, we'll be able to give some ideas based on design. Like once we understand the functionality, like in case of clamp, once we understood the functionality, we thought solid parts are not needed. Strength is not the major concern here. So we were able to lightweight their design. So it depends on each part. So we will sit with them and we will have a conversation regarding the functionality and what it is, where it is used, what is it be used for, what is the life cycle of the product.
You said you work with around 20%. Around 20% of your clients are international clients. So can you tell me a bit more about what those clients are doing and the kinds of work that Amuse does for them?
So usually when we work with abroad clients, we put the parts on priority basis. Okay. For example, if the customer is giving just a part and if they could not find it locally at a faster lead time, we put the parts on a same day, and then probably to Europe, a customer who's from Europe, we would be able to deliver it in 5 days. They can expect the parts 5 to 6 days. They can expect the parts at their doors, or probably to Australia or somewhere in the closer region. They can expect the parts like 6 days. But it also depends on the product size and quantity of the parts they are expecting. If they can be fitted into one single build, we do not care about how many numbers, because we run the machine on a high utilization. Number of parts can be higher.